Okay,
we just
got the
got the
it
live
thing?
stream message.
Yeah, I don't
Okay,
know
so
why
I'm-
mine isn't doing it.
Well, I don't know. I think it's the signing into the host on this being not you, but being the MacNexus demo and go. But well, this should be good. Once it started, we should be fine. Let me just play it to make sure it's working.
Okay, we
There
just
it
got
is.
the live stream message.
Okay, we are working on this. And
So you do warm compression just like you would on a zit on your face.
okay,
Or in the back side.
and I will transfer it back to.
For a few minutes, get an arc there, you wick it and then squeeze it until you get the pus up. Yeah, maybe, but mostly just do this.
Okay, Thomas, you are
Okay.
back to being host.
Alrighty.
I'll hang
Yeah.
out for a minute, so in case anybody has any questions.
Thomas, you gonna turn your camera on?
Oh, sure. I was being the guy behind the screen, the curtain.
Have a blast.
Speaking
right,
of
good
Wizard
e-
of Oz, speaking of the Wizard of Oz and the man behind the curtain, we will be in Kansas tomorrow.
Ah,
Kansas.
hope you see Dorothy
And
now.
tonight we're in Joplin, Missouri. We started this in St. Augustine. Carolyn, you have a question.
Yes, I do. I talked with Apple support about this today and got nowhere. And what my issue is, I can remember this happening right after I upgraded to Ventura on my Mac. And in Apple Mail, my default is that I see the all boxes, which has both my cloud and my Gmail emails coming into. And after I added Ventura, I noticed that occasionally some emails would come in showing two different entries, one right after another. If you deleted one, the other one stayed. You couldn't delete it. But if I went down and selected just cloud or Google, then it would go away.
You said this did this. Is it still doing it?
Yes, it was doing it
And
today.
on which email account or on all of them?
Well, that's one of the questions. I know that it does it on my ME account, me.com. I can't tell you that it's doing it with Gmail. I'm sorry that I don't have an answer for that.
Well, all you do is you click on each specific mailbox.
I know, but I haven't looked.
And is every one of them duplicated?
No,
Yeah, there's something weird with that. And if you upgraded to I don't know that that's a Ventura thing. It could be a mail server thing, but have you restarted?
oh, certainly, yeah,
Okay.
several times since that.
And are you running the latest Ventura?
Yes, I'm up to date. I just, I've got to call back. I'd spent enough time with this young man in Apple support today and I had to leave. So I'm gonna call him back.
Well, you know what you also can do on something like that? A lot of times they'll say, do you want to have an engineer call you? And they'll keep make sure you get the ticket number.
Mhm.
And then sometimes they'll do that and then schedule a call back because, there's all levels of ability on their customer service.
Yeah. Well, I told him I wouldn't get back to them until tomorrow because I wanted to, out of curiosity, to see if anybody in MacNexus had the same thing.
I mean, when it's weird, but then do they go away and it's okay?
No, they would stay there.
And okay,
make
and
them-
what about,
I
are
make
they
them-
duplicated on your other devices?
No,
Okay,
That makes it sound like a display problem of some kind.
well, or something to do with the unsend kind of feature and stuff, or maybe your box is on the side, but if you need to isolate if it's one account, if it's one account, one way to do it is to delete that account and re-add it.
yeah. When he sent me the invitation to let him see my screen, it came up twice. No, maybe that's not it. I'm sorry. It was confusing today, so I don't remember too many details anymore.
Yeah.
I'll get back to them. I was just curious. Thank you.
So, okay.
Yeah.
All right.
let's let Ken get the
Oh,
rack.
no, I'll do,
He's 2
I'll
hours
stay,
different from us.
I'll stay, oh,
already.
I'm good. I just got in, so I'm still awake and,
What's the purpose?
Roy Chastain has a question. I'll try field.
Yeah, just a comment. You were
Al,
talking
what's
about
that? What are you putting on your head there, Al?
I got his lights on. I'm getting kind of hot. I'm just getting old and sweaty.
Your makeup's running.
That's it.
Ken, you mentioned that, the different, Apple text, some are good, some are not. Today, I had the problems with my Mac and my phone, and the call from Nova Scotia was excellent. Best one I've ever dealt with. Here's everything.
You, like either use the earpiece or something, I can't hear them.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, Roy, what?
Paul in Nova Scotia was the tech that helped me today on both my Mac and my iPhone. He's wonderful.
Is he an
experienced.
Apple tech?
Yeah,
Yeah, I think it's always hard to pick and choose on those.
oh, I know, but I lucked out.
Okay.
Hey, Ken, you want to take a quick purple box question?
Oh,
It looks
yeah,
Probably
yeah.
simple for you. It's from Elaine Hebert. She lives up in Ashland, Oregon. Says, hi, I'm thinking of switching my iPhone service from AT&T to T-Mobile. Their question is, will I lose all my history of text messages that are currently in my iPhone?
No, she shouldn't, but one way to make sure it doesn't happen is if you go to and put your messages on the cloud, because then it syncs them. Right. I don't think it would be a problem, but that's the what ifs. So I would say just go into settings, iCloud, and make sure that it's on to keep your messages on the cloud, and it will for sure then come over. But if she does the migration the right way, they will all come over, and she should use it's called quick setup, I believe, or quick, anyway, it's just where you migrate, and you don't want to use the one from the cloud. You want to have it go phone to phone. And it's called quick, man, it escapes me. Al will find the link.
Yeah,
So,
okay, thank you.
Okay, thanks.
you bet. Hi, Chris.
Hi, Ken.
Oh, and I'm not co-host, so I can't lower Roy's hand.
Okay, I'll get to it.
Thank
Don't
you.
worry.
Go ahead, Chris.
I have an issue when I'm traveling, and I think I probably need to deal with it when I'm traveling because it doesn't happen when I'm home. But when I'm out of Wi-Fi range, it'll try and connect with a personal hotspot, but it doesn't try and connect with my personal hotspot. It'll try and connect with my sister's personal hotspot.
Because you've probably connected from it at some time.
Yeah.
So you should be able to go in, kind of like how you can forget a Wi-Fi network.
Okay.
You should be able to go in more particularly when you're around her.
Yeah.
Go into the Wi-Fi setting there and hit the little blue eye, the indicator dot. There's an indicator, a blue circle with an eye.
Okay.
And say, forget this network or forget this person. And also you can in Wi-Fi say, don't auto join.
Don't auto join.
Yeah. Turn auto join off.
Okay. And then it should link.
If it's available there and you can say forget this network, it will not automatically join it unless you say it. Now that doesn't hold true if they're on the same Apple ID like your other devices. Like my iPad will always prompt if it wants to connect to my phone because we're on the same Apple ID.
I think we're on family sharing together.
That won't make a difference. Your Apple IDs are completely separate, but that was a good question.
So I need to be in proximity with her.
Well, I don't think it's going to show up otherwise. So it's kind of like same thing with a Wi-Fi network. If you want to, like sometimes people accidentally have joined their neighbors, or they joined the Xfinity one, which is terrible, and they're
Right.
not on their own. So you go in, you have to be near it to say, I want to forget this network. If you're not near that thing, it just, and I don't know if how it does it on the personal hotspot, because it's really on her end, the personal hotspot. She can exclude you, but I think the way to do it is connect, go when you're nearby, and then go to the Wi-Fi settings, look at the right-hand side where the blue eye is, click it and say, forget this network. And by the way, you guys, that question and the mail question that Carolyn had, Jason Snell, when he's on tonight, is just stellar, and he knows this stuff great. So don't hesitate to ask that question there, and I take no offense to it.
Okay, thanks, Ken. Good luck in the rest of your,
Hey, thank you.
right.
We got 3 aces already, which means it was perfect legs. We're doing
Outstanding.
okay. We're about mid-pack, so, but it's really
Nice.
fun. Great group of
Nice.
people, 129 cars.
Right
Wow.
on.
A lot of the same faces.
Maybe half. It's so arduous, and like cars have to be shipped from across the country
Oh,
or
my.
brought in and stuff. So it's a lot of people rotate through and stuff, but we did have 6 MGs that were scheduled. One guy actually had open heart surgery, so he didn't bring his car, but he
Oh,
ended up
my.
showing up just to kind of see how it was.
Moral support.
He's on the he's on the waiting list for next year. Us MGs didn't know each other than one of the guys. And unfortunately, the guy that we knew from 2 years ago, his car started having some issues. So he's had to quit before he blew it up. So, but our little car is just going, and I got to tell you, the story behind the car that my best friend is driving and I'm the navigator. It's a 1953 MGTD. In fact, I'll try to change it to my screen background for a minute here, but his parents bought it when he was 4 years old. They're the second owner. He had he took his driver's test in this car, and he had his first date in this car. Here's the car right here behind me. If you guys can make me spotlight,
Nice.
I should show up. So that's the car. He took his driver's test in it, had his first date, and drove it to high school every day. He's 69 years old now. Now, his 92-year-old mother, who I dearly love, she's just great. She is meeting us at the finish line. I will get out of the navigator seat, and she will hop in that car and go across the finish line in Colorado Springs, the ceremonial finish line. So it's really a wonderful story.
Man, that's a great story.
When he was growing up and he was first starting to drive, he takes her out and she's showing him how to drive, and he's going like this. She goes, no, do this. And she goes out and shows him how to slide it through corners and everything else. So Peggy Aiken's her name, Margaret Aiken. So there'll be lots of photos about that. And I have not been able to post really any photos or anything because it's just been crazy. This is the earliest we've been in at all, and it's 9:17 here. So
Wow.
but very cool.
Yeah.
Well, when we toured Graceland, we had private tours of Graceland, and that was pretty cool. Elvis wasn't there, but
Ellen wasn't there.
yeah,
Not in the jungle room, huh?
no. Oh, the jungle room was cool. Very cool. So, all righty,
That's-
everybody. I'm gonna bail out because I gotta shower and everything. It's very hot, and tomorrow's gonna be real tough. So
Yeah.
anyway,
Is Jason, what time do you think Jason will show up?
I have no
Yeah.
idea. I didn't arrange that.
Yeah.
8 o'clock.
So,
8:00?
About
Yeah.
8 o'clock is what he said he'd be, he's got another commitment up until then, and as soon as
Uh-huh.
it's done, I think he will come on over.
And just so you guys know, to everybody, Jason always had the option of doing Skype with us, but he always preferred to come to MacNexus. Obviously now that's not a thing, but he's wonderful, and you guys treat him all well and buy him drinks afterwards.
Yeah.
Okay.
This is his 7th visit.
I saw. That's great.
Yeah. Yeah. Isn't that great?
Cool. Thanks again, everybody. Have a good one.
You too.
Stay safe, Ken.
If something fails with when I disconnect, it shouldn't, but if something fails with the recording, you'll probably get a notice. Just text me. Okay.
All right.
Thank you. Have a good one. Thanks for doing it.
All right,
Sorry to
buddy.
interrupt.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
It's all good.
All right, good evening. I am Thomas Spencer, your vice president. And obviously, Ken is not here because we spoke to him in another part of the country. So we will be having our normal list of activities tonight, starting with our volunteer member announcements and going on to our tech Q&A, and then a brief news and rumors from Al. And as we just all heard, Jason will be joining us at approximately 8 p.m. Jason Snell is our speaker tonight. He has been with us, as many of you have just heard, 7 times, and as Ken stated, is a very, very personable individual with a vast array of knowledge. He has his own company. He's co-founder of 6 Colors website, and can be heard on a wide assortment of podcasts, including Mac Break Weekly and the Incomparable, covering Apple and tech and pop culture. Ladies and gentlemen, Jason will be with us later. Now, at this point, we will call for any member or volunteer announcements. Yes, Mary.
Yeah, I have a little printer, a little portable printer, if anybody is interested, you know, one of those cute little college dorm room printers. If anybody's interested, just let me know.
What's the brand there, Mary?
You know what? I'll just show it. Hold on a second. It's right here. I think it's an HP, but I'm not sure. Oops. Let's see. It's this kind.
HP.
Yeah. So if anybody's interested, just text me.
Does it have what's the status of the print cartridge? Is it
Ooh,
relatively
I don't
full,
know.
or when you last used it was
I don't know. My daughter used it at college, and you know, she graduated a couple of years ago, so I'm really sure. But I know they're selling the same thing these days. I've seen it. So if you're interested, Al, let me know. I'll get more of those details for you.
No, I've got one to pawn off myself.
No,
No, I have an old brother, but it needs a cartridge, but it was a workhorse. Used
Yeah.
it for years, you know, but sadly these days, like other printers, people who sell printing printers, they're in the ink business, you know, they're not in the hardware business really, because it costs more for me to probably buy a cartridge than to buy a brand new one.
Yeah.
You know,
Well, if this one, I can look into that if anybody's interested, but it's great for like a dorm room, like I said.
Sure.
Anybody's kid or grandkid is on their way out the door, that might be something they're interested in.
Great.
All right.
Anybody else have anything to sell or in the market for, or?
Well, I don't know
right.
if you're going to talk about it or not, but somebody may want to. I just opened a Apple savings account, and I will just say you have to be updated, and it's easy, but you have to have the right iOS
Oh,
Operating system, the latest?
operating system on your phone, or it won't, you can't do it. So just a little caution if anybody's interested.
Initial impressions?
I don't know. I joined yesterday, so.
Oh, okay. Hasn't taken your money yet.
No, and I'm trying to, and I was hoping to get a bill automatically paid from that. It won't do it from that savings account, FYI. That's the other thing I found out, if you're interested.
It's
Maybe.
definitely a savings account. It's not a transaction account.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
They want your money long-term.
I mean, if you're using an Apple Card, credit card as your main purchasing, then your daily cash rebate, you can set it up to go automatically into the savings account. That's the only automatic transaction that I've found so far.
You have one, Lisa?
Yeah, I just thought, what the heck? Let's have some fun.
Sure, sure.
And I had some money on my Apple Cash card. So I had it transfer over to the savings account, and at the same time said, yeah, instead of my rebates going into my cash card, let it go into my savings account. So I've only had it for, I think this will be the second month that I get interest. Started with like, $50, huge investment.
Yeah. I'm curious to see what folks' experience is as far as withdrawals. How involved is that? Are there limitations?
Yeah. That I haven't done yet.
Yeah, I suppose no one's that far down the road here doing that.
It looks pretty easy. There is a button that says withdraw or add money, and I've mostly just added with the APY of 4.15%. It's tremendously much more than a regular savings account at a bank or institution like that. But withdrawal looks pretty easy. I just tapped withdraw, so it will go somewhere. I've just never withdrawn yet, but it looks like when I hit tap withdraw, you just put in it gives you an available amount. Available balance is the amount you can immediately use. It does not include pending transfers. So it looks easy to do. I just don't know.
I think
where
you
it
have to.
goes.
I think you have to transfer it. Like if you have a debit card or on your wallet, then you can transfer it to there, which goes into your bank or a bank account that's on your wallet. That's in your wallet. It has to be in your wallet already, is my understanding.
Or it could go. It'd be something good to research. You're probably right. It could also perhaps go to the Apple Cash card. But several options. I just haven't withdrawn anything yet. Happy with the returns and let the interest grow and compound.
And Barbara Badeau just asked what the interest rate is. And I think it's over 4%, but I don't remember. Lisa or Randy might know more specific.
Yeah, it's your APY, so annual percentage yield, is 4.15%.
So does that fluctuate with the any other financial, the Fed one way or the other?
I don't know, because I think that was the rate when I did mine a couple of months ago. So I would expect it can fluctuate. I just don't know how frequently it would fluctuate.
Well, it just looks like an interesting thing to try. And I think you have to have an Apple credit card, though, to do it.
Yeah. I'm looking at Apple's Apple site on it right now. And I posted it in the chat. No hidden fees, no annual fees, no late fees, no foreign transaction fees, no over the limit fees, no return payment fees, no setup fees, no maintenance fees, no reward redemption fees, no fees, period. That's for advertising anyway.
Yeah. Well, yeah, the advantage, I mean, instead of having, like I said, my rebates go to the Apple Cash card where it just sits. And of course, Goldman Sachs and Apple get to play with the money, but I don't get anything for it. I thought, well, let's throw it into the savings account and see what happens. And sure, if I want to, if I want to pay, we want to split lunch, I got to get money back on my cash card. That really doesn't take that much to do.
Yeah. Looking at it, it looks like it, looks a lot like my Apple card, tap to see your summary by week, by month, by year.
Yeah.
Unlimited daily cash back with every purchase. Easily pin down your spending with maps. That's interesting. Find any transaction with a quick and easy search. Okay. See your spending by color or category. That's nice to have that breakdown. I see view item by item receipts from your Apple services. I see that anyway with my Apple card. Okay. 2% daily cash back every time you pay with your iPhone or Apple Watch.
Mhm.
Of course, your purchase history.
Anybody else have any history with that?
I may have to make the plunge. Put money in there. And, yeah, I'm using my Apple card pretty frequently. So, I need to have some place to park some of the Apple Cash so I don't spend it.
I opened one and I'm perfectly delighted with it. Sure beats getting 3 cents back from the bank.
Yeah, isn't that a fact? Oh, Lord. I have
All righty. Do we have any other questions or topics we want to cover here? Or do you want to continue with the card or, I mean,
any other remarks or observations, criticisms, experiences to share? Guess not.
all righty. Well, let's go to, I think it's down to you, Al. Because we
All
did
right.
any tech questions. I believe we had spoken of it early. Let's be formal about anyone having any questions for the technical genius persons that are here.
Haven't we already done that?
Yeah.
I thought we
yeah.
had. I just was
The technical
kinda
genius person,
informal.
he has left the building.
Well, I
July
get that,
Jones.
but all righty.
But
Well,
some
then
of
now
the
we'll.
star pupils are still here.
Well,
Yeah.
that was kind of why I was, in case someone hadn't asked at that point, I was the only reason I was mentioning it. Well, then Al, take her away. We got the
Okay.
news and rumors, buddy.
Oh, Melissa Green raised her hand.
Oh,
Hi, yeah,
Yeah.
I had an interesting question. And it might have been because I played in Terminal at some point. But when I do a search in the Finder, I get a ton of results that are JavaScript options. And I'm just going to go out and do a little search here. And I list documents by just the titles, but often I will get a tremendous number of search hits that are like text documents but not text documents I've created. They are system level text documents. Does that?
Probably sounds like it's probably searching in your system somewhere, and it's just doing a blanket search, and that's it's giving you back some of those results. I just put something into my Finder search, and it's just I just typed in documents, and it goes on and on and on. Safari links, bookmarks.
Well, I'm seeing things that are .xmp, which again are not documents I've created. I just didn't know if maybe I turned something on doing some experiment in Terminal so that now search is giving me hidden files. Okay, nobody's saying, yeah, that happened to me too. So, okay, so just me,
That means
just me,
nobody
I'll go
knows the
crawl back
answer.
under a rock, okay?
yeah, that might be a great Jason question also.
Yeah,
You
those
see what I'm
hidden
saying?
files usually are hidden for a reason.
Well,
yeah.
and I would like them to go away again.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
All right, perfect. You're up, Al.
Okay, let me share my screen here. Okay, here.
Where's Kara? She's still with us?
Okay. You see that?
Nope.
I'm not seeing a screen yet.
Okay. How's that?
Now you're coming in.
There you are.
All right. I get this other stuff here. All righty. Let me see where I'm at here. Okay. All right, Thomas. Thanks for introducing. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Apple Tech News and Rumor segment of our meeting. Most important event in the Apple universe this month was, of course, the Worldwide Developers Conference 2023. The 2-hour and 6-minute keynote, as always, was well produced and densely packed with information. This year, there were
Hey,
quite a
Al,
few products.
can I
Yes.
interrupt for a second? Do you know that you were seeing your notes as well as your slides? Do you need
Okay.
for us to see your
Hey,
notes?
let me fix that.
Okay.
Right. Thank you for pointing that out here.
Yeah.
Okay, let me reconfigure this here. TV slideshow. Okay, here, let me see here. Let me stop the share.
The foibles of having multiple screens.
Yeah. Desktop 2. Okay, here. Okay, I just quit my keynote here. Just bear with me here. Same thing?
Same thing. There you go.
Okay. All righty. Let me see it. Got 4 different screens here. All right. This year there were quite a few products announced and released. I'll show you a few slides of the feature quilts to make the most of our time tonight. If you haven't already, viewing Apple's keynote video is pretty highly recommended. It's always well done, well produced. First up is they've introduced a new MacBook Air 15-inch. It's a very popular size laptop. It's now with a liquid retina display, and it sports the new M2 chip with up to 18 hours of battery life. It comes with multiple GPU configurations, 8 and 10 core, up to 24 gigabytes of memory, and up to 2 terabytes of storage. So pretty well equipped. As you know, the M2 was released a year ago for the completely redesigned MacBook Air and updated 13-inch MacBook Pro. The M2 is built using enhanced 2nd generation 5 nanometer technology and consists of 20 billion transistors. That's up 25% more than the M1. The CPU of the M2 features faster performance cores and enhanced efficiency cores that together deliver about 18% greater multi-threaded performance than the M1. Apple's next generation 10 core GPU and the M2 delivers up to 35% higher graphics performance than the M1 at its maximum power. Apple also released a new Mac Studio. It's configurable with the M2 Max or the M2 Ultra chip. Both come with Wi-Fi 6E and Bluetooth 5.3. The display support for the M2 Max, it can simultaneously support up to five displays and an assortment of resolutions. The M2 Ultra can support up to 8 displays. Again, with assortment of various resolutions and depending on what monitors you have and the number of monitors, of course. The M2 starts at $19.99 and the M2 Ultra at $39.99. Finally, for the high-end video professionals with the need for a lot of I/O and uncompromising performance and power, Apple has released the M2 Mac Pro. The M2 Ultra chip in the Mac Studio and the Mac Pro surprisingly are the same with the same display support. Of course, the difference with the Pro has up to 8 Thunderbolt channels, and it'll take cards, and so it's meant for a real small rarefied group of clientele. It starts at $69.99, so it's obviously meant for the deep pockets and the well-heeled. Also previewed was iOS 17. Some of the features include a new feature called contact posters, which lets you customize how your profile appears when you interact with other iPhone users. There's some improvements to the AirDrop that supports tapping 2 phones together to transfer other content from one device to the other. And that could be video or pictures or files, whatever. The Music app has been revamped with support for collaborative playlists and crossfade. If you use CarPlay, the Music app now includes SharePlay support to let anyone in the car have a say in what's currently playing. So if you're a brave enough soul, there you go. There's a major revamp in autocorrect, something we all can look forward to. iOS 17 includes a big update with support for, interactive widgets. Kid jumped ahead. Sorry about that. This thing called Live Voice in iOS 17 lets you see the real-time transcription as someone leaves a voicemail. And it also includes the ability to pick up the call while the person is leaving their message. For a more detailed list of the coming features, this 9 to 5 Mac article is pretty extensive. The public beta of iOS 17 is due out next month. So if you're a brave soul, look for it. But do not use it for mission critical devices. It's in beta. Oops. Sorry about that. Here's a list of iOS 17 compatible devices from Macworld and Tom's Guide. If you have an iPhone 8 or an iPhone 10 or something older, of course, and are interested in new features in iOS 17, you might want to consider an upgrade this fall. It'll drop support for those phones, the 8 and the 10, that are currently supported by iOS 16. By then, those phones will be 6 years old, and Apple generally supports phones up to 5 years with its latest operating systems. And of course, some features require even newer hardware to be supported. Also at WWDC 2023, Apple released iPadOS 17 preview. Some of the features include personalized lock screens, motion effect for a live photo wallpaper, the use of live activities to stay on the top of things happening in real time, right from your lock screen. Of course, widgets on your lock screen. You can record a video and audio message when someone misses your FaceTime call. And finally, a health app on the iPad, as well as the ability to fill out documents faster with autofill, ability to view and interact with PDFs and notes, the ability to collaborate on PDFs, and also the ability to create a profile in Safari for those who want to separate their professional life from their personal life. It's helpful for those that fall in that category. Not to be forgotten, macOS 14 Sonoma preview was also shown. Some new features coming in the fall include some stunning new screensavers, the ability to add widgets to your desktop similar to iOS and iPadOS, access iPhone widgets on your Mac. That's new. Widgets fade for better focus when you open an app or a window or use Stage Manager. The widgets fade into the background so you can concentrate on the task at hand. You can switch your wallpaper and the colors of the widgets instantly adapt. Video conferencing enhancements, create a profile in Safari, password and passkey sharing, more enhanced private browsing, better search filters and messages, You can fill out documents faster with autofill and PDFs. You can start something in Notes and finish it in Pages. That might be useful. And the lockdown mode, a thing called lockdown mode that increases security to help protect against sophisticated cyber attacks. And you'll be able to turn it on across all of your Apple devices, now including Apple Watch. For those of us with Apple Watches, there's also a watchOS 10 preview. Some of the features coming in the fall include faster access to your control center, a snappy little Snoopy and Woodstock watch face that reacts to the weather. It's introducing a thing called Palette that you can see time as a range of beautiful colors that shift throughout the day using 3 distinct overlapping layers. If you're into cycling, you can see new metrics with compatible Bluetooth devices. If you have Bluetooth accessories that to add cadence, speed, and power to your workout view. Your cycling metrics are optimized for your iPhone. There will be new views in the Compass app. There will be new trail information as well as new topographic maps. There's elevation alerts that allow you to get notified when you've passed a particular elevation threshold. There's an emotional awareness with that you log your state of mind, and you can reflect on your state of mind to build resilience and improve well-being. And there's also a thing for vision health aids that help reduce myopia. The ambient light sensor in the Apple Watch can now measure time in daylight. And so I guess just, it helps that nearsightedness typically starts in childhood. So interesting that they're taking that on. Finally, after many years of R&D and speculation, this year's One More Thing product, Apple's released the Vision Pro spatial computing headset. Hopefully, when Jason gets here, maybe since he has actually tried one on, so I'm hoping he'll give us his first impressions of the product and thoughts about the path forward. A couple little slides here about the actual device. It's constructed with a single piece of 3-dimensional formed laminated glass that flows into an aluminum alloy frame that gently curves around your face. Comes with a pair of high-resolution cameras, transmit over 1 billion pixels per second to the display so you can see the world around you clearly. The system also helps deliver precise head and hand tracking, as well as real-time 3D mapping, all while understanding your hand gestures from a wide range of positions. The speakers are positioned close to your ears, delivering spatial audio that blends with real-world sounds. It comes with dual driver audio pods positioned next to each ear and deliver personalized sounds while letting you hear what's around you. The ambient spatial audio makes sounds feel like they're coming in from your surroundings with audio ray tracing. The Vision Pro analyzes your room's acoustic properties, includes physical materials to adapt and match the sound to your actual space. The headband provides cushioning and breathability, and obviously it'll stretch. There's a fit dial that lets you adjust precisely for your head. Also, there's a custom micro LED display system that features 23 million pixels, delivering some pretty stunning resolution and colors. A specially designed 3-element lens that creates the feeling of a display that's everywhere you look. There's a light seal that gently contours to your face that delivers a precise fit while blocking out the stray light. You can press the digital crown to bring up this home view, and and turn it into your level of immersion while using environments. So this is all, they have some great footage in the keynote that shows illustrates some of this stuff. If you if you press the top button to take spatial videos and spatial photos in the moment, so it's one more capability. Again, we'll look to see how it's implemented. Be a while before most of us can have one of these, but be interesting to see what the reports tell us. It comes with a high performance eye tracking system of LEDs and infrared cameras that projects invisible light patterns onto each eye. This advanced system provides ultra precise input without your needing to hold any controllers. So you can accurately select elements by just looking at them. It's a departure from the MetaQuest and those predecessors. A unique dual chip display enables the spatial experiences. The powerful M2 chip simultaneously runs Vision OS, executes advanced computer vision algorithms, and delivers some stunning graphics. The brand new R1 chip is specifically dedicated to process input from cameras, sensors, microphones, streaming images to displays within 12 milliseconds for a virtually lag-free real-time view of the world. Of course, coming next year at this $34.99 price points, probably not for most of us at this point, but hopefully it marks the beginning of the next big thing and some of the, succeeding iterations. This month's PSA on June 21st, Apple released a series of security updates. Apple's issued iOS 16.5.1 and iPad OS 16.5.1, and the corresponding ones for Mac OS Ventura and watchOS. Apple's release notes say they don't say very much about the content of the update, but this time they do single out one bug that addresses iPhones and iPads. So if you haven't already, update it. This from Apple Insider. Apple's rolled out a handful of new updates across its iWork suite, standardizing support for scalable vector graphics, adding support for ProRes on iOS and iPadOS versions of Pages, Numbers, and Keynote. Apple's forthcoming macOS Sonoma will not support the same range of Maxes as macOS Ventura, with a few models years chopped off the compatibility list. This means that macOS Ventura is now the final macOS that the MacBook, the original MacBook, will be able to run. Similarly, the 2017 iMac and the 2017 MacBook Pro will have to remain on that same OS as well. Here's a graphic that shows some of those compatible devices. Apple's been dropping support for Intel Macs a bit more quickly in the Apple Silicon era than it was during the height of the Intel Mac era in the early to mid 2010s. A Mac that was released between 2009 and 2015 could typically expect between 7 to 8 years of new Mac OS releases. But Macs released in 2016 or 2017, that number now is closer to 6 years. Apple does provide older macOS releases with around 2 years of additional security-only updates after replacing them. So people with a Mac stuck on Mac OS 12 Monterey or OS 13 Ventura should still get Safari updates and patches for the most severe security vulnerabilities after Sonoma is released. For anyone still running Mac OS 10 Big Sur, the time has come to either upgrade your operating system, upgrade your hardware, or you'll wind up taking your chances without running any patches. This from Ars Technica. With the introduction of the Apple Silicon Mac Pro, Apple's finally completed the Apple Silicon transition and booted all Intel Macs from the current lineup. But software support for Intel Macs isn't quite done, not yet anyway. macOS Sonoma update will still run on a couple of generations of Intel Macs, but in general, if you're using anything made before 2018, or anything without an Apple T2 chip. That's a security chip they designed. You won't be able to run the new OS. And this from the Apple newsroom, I thought kind of interesting. There's a new study that Apple released that shows App Store generated more than $1 trillion in sales and billings for developers last year. The study underscores the strength and resilience of the Apple Store ecosystem, with billings and sales facilitated by Apple Store growing 29% year over year. For example, as restrictions eased in many parts of the world, app categories like travel and ride-hailing saw demand rebound significantly. Travel sales made on iOS apps increased by 84% in 2022, alongside a 45% increase in sales on ride-hailing apps. Food and grocery sales were also among the fastest growing app categories. Since 2019, iOS app-based food delivery and pickup sales more than doubled. Grocery sales more than tripled. In addition, enterprise apps have grown in popularity with companies around the world in the last few years. In 2022, these apps represented one of the fastest growing digital goods and services categories in the analysis group's estimate of billings and sales. The highest growth in digital goods and services was seen in the app-based entertainment category. All told, iOS developers have earned more than $320 billion in the App Store from 2008 to 2022. The analysis group study found that iOS users have downloaded apps more than 370 billion times between 2008 and 2022. And today the App Store has more than 123 times as many apps. That would come to somewhere circa 1.8 million to choose from. That's compared to the mere thousands available at the App Store at the end of 2008 when it just came to fruition. And finally tonight, since its launch, the AirTag has been useful in a variety of situations, including recovery of stolen cars, baggage, and other common items. But there's one thing that's kind of unusual. You can imagine a bull statue the size of a person being retrieved with the help of a tracker. That's what happened at a restaurant called Tacos del Manolito in St. Anthony, Texas. A custom-made statue of a bull 2 meters high and 70 kilos, they affectionately nicknamed Manolo, regularly welcomed their patrons. And despite its weight and being chained to a sight fence, the mascot was taken leaving the facade of the establishment a little less friendly. What the thieves didn't anticipate was that the owner had replaced an AirTag inside Manolo just in case. In the end, the fiberglass statue was successfully recovered by the police in the town 20 miles away, thanks to Apple's tracker. Another win for the Apple AirTag. All the links generated tonight and more will be distributed in a PDF by Bob White in his normal MacNexus email blast. I will post it sooner on our Facebook page. Our Facebook page is a great forum for late-breaking curated Apple and tech news and support. We encourage everyone to come check it out. Back to you, Thomas.
Well, thank you, Al. That's great information. You always do such a robust job. It's just a little more than I often
got some
see.
feedback here.
Yeah, Jason just joined us. I think maybe is it he? Does someone have their? Oh, it is. Hey, Jason.
Trying to stop this share.
Is that me feeding back? Ah, it couldn't be me. I had nothing on. Okay, it's gone. Wonderful.
Thanks, Al.
A lot of dry information there, but there's a ton. Hey, Jason Snell, how are you?
Hey there. I was worried that I was causing terrible feedback by just being here.
I'm glad you made it back to Mac Break Weekly. I hear you have a college graduate now.
I do. I still have one in college, but I have one that's out of college now. So we on to the next phase of what she's going to do with her life. But it's a good milestone. Good milestone.
Yeah. Tremendous. What do you care to talk about tonight? We have a couple of questions, I'm sure. So I have been doing I've visited many user groups after WWDC. What I found is that I talk about Vision Pro, and then I say I could talk about the Mac and the new operating systems, and everybody's sort of like, I have lots of questions about Vision Pro. Yeah.
So I think I'm going to talk about Vision Pro and then take your questions.
Sounds great. I know that from listening to you and Mac Break Weekly that you've had an opportunity to put one on, and we're all interested in first impressions and maybe the path forward.
Sure. So if that's okay, I can get started.
Sure.
I don't have any slides. One of these days I'll go back to using slides like in the old days, but I just
ramble on.
I've got a little outline. Okay. So just talking about Vision Pro, not talking about the other stuff. Although if you want to ask about the other stuff that they announced, I'm happy to talk about it. Obviously the headlines are out there, $34.99, available early next year. Go through a little bit about what it is. So it's about £1. Pretty amazing piece of densely designed hardware. The front part of it, the kind of curved part that is the big, the tech part of it. What's in that dense? It's sort of like a couple of iPhones worth. What's in there? 3 OLED displays are in there, which is pretty wild when you think about it. There are 2 displays that are more than 4K resolution, one for each eye. They're so small that they're 64 times the density of an iPhone. And then there's a front display that shows your eyes. And I should say none of us have seen it. It's only in demos, or only on videos and stuff where Apple's been able to massage it. None of the products that we saw actually displayed this feature, this idea that it's going to pass through, basically a 3D representation of your eyes. So nobody's really seen how that works. I do think, though, it is remarkable in the sense of the amount of engineering effort Apple put into this thing that was totally unnecessary, right? It could be a blank screen, but they wanted to have this idea that when you see out, people can see that you're seeing out, and that is going to reduce how disaffected you are, sort of like disconnected from the world around you, because throughout this entire product launch, Apple wants to make clear that they feel like this is not a product about turning inward. It's a product about enhancing what you see outward. And when you think about this engineering, so they took a screen, and then what they did is that it's actually a lenticular piece. Lenticular, if you ever had a baseball card or a DVD case or something like that. It's the thing where if you hold it up and you turn it or you go like this, it's like there's multiple frames. It's like a 3D image. They're using that effect. So the idea is that you're seeing a different part of the display depending on what angle you're at. And what they said was, if they just put a display on the front with your eyes on it, if you were right in front of that person, it would be a really convincing illusion. But if you were at any other angle, it would be fake, because it would be very clearly still you're looking at a screen with a picture of eyes on it. So by using this lenticular piece, what they're trying to do is, if you're off axis to the left or the right, it's showing you a different image on that display so they're rendering multiple images from multiple angles, so that if you're off to the right, it looks like you're looking through, and it's trying to keep that illusion that you're passing through this hardware that is not, light is not passing through it, in order to give the effect that you're seeing through to the person behind it. So they've spent a huge amount of time and effort and money trying to build this in order to get the impression across, a thing that you never see as the user of the product. I just think it's really interesting, and they definitely spent a lot of money there. There's a lot more, though. 12 cameras, 5 different sensors, including a LiDAR sensor and a true depth sensor, like on the iPhone. There are 6 different microphones. There are 2 spatial audio pods in the audio strap, so they go right above your ears, and they're emitting sound so that you can hear sound, but it feels like the sound that they're emitting is actually in the room. I'll give you an example. I had we did an iMessage a FaceTime conversation. I took the window, put it sort of off to the left of me, and we were in a slightly echoey room. That person's voice was coming from where the window was, where I'd placed the window. and had an echo in it. And I asked them afterward, if we had been outside and I'd had that conversation, would I have heard that room echo? And they said, absolutely not. They're actually synthesizing the echo that is in the room to match. And that's the whole premise here with those little audio pods and spatial audio is, you can put AirPods in. If you're on an airplane, you probably want to do that. But normally you're sort of like ears are open to the world around you, and it's the audio equivalent of what they're trying to do with augmented reality. They are trying to place their audio from the virtual world in the same context as you're hearing audio from around the room that you're in, so that the illusion is even more complete, that that these things you're seeing that are not really there are really there. So they've got these two audio pods to do that. There's an M2 processor in here. There's the new R1 processor in there, which is a real-time operation. The idea there is we have all had an experience with a computer that has had a hiccup, an app stops working, the OS has to pause, there's a networking problem, and you end up with a pause. I'm trying to scroll through an app and it stops scrolling, or I try to tap on something and it doesn't tap. There's a hiccup. A real-time operating system doesn't do that. Real-time operating system, this is what's like running in cars. It's based on the fact that every second that happens, a second happens. Whereas on our user interfaces, if there's a software problem, you might have to wait. In a real-time operating system, you cannot wait. It's not allowed. And they're using that as the underlying premise for all the stuff that's being processed in terms of the sensors in this thing, the cameras in this thing. So if there's a software issue, the app might have an issue and pause or lock up or whatever. But when you turn your head, everything is still going to move. You're not going to be in a situation where you turn your head and things don't move for a little bit, and then they kind of like are janky and they catch up because they know that completely breaks the illusion. So they built a special processor to do that and a special underlying real-time operating system to do that. So the amount of investment here is pretty spectacular. But the other part of this is like the softer side of this, which is I think Apple is trying to make a product that is humane. They're really trying to offset the fundamental, I think you could argue, inhumanity of the fact that you're putting something completely over your eyes. You can't see the world. So they're like, we're going to have cameras, high resolution cameras. We're going to show you the world. We're going to have a screen on the outside. So people if you're looking out, they're going to see you looking out. And then they built this, it's like a woven, it's very high quality materials, a woven elastic fabric band that goes on the back of your head. Very high quality. They spent a lot of money on it. I imagine there'll be a video at some point where they explain how they went to weavers somewhere in the world and learned about their artisanal weaving techniques and learned from that and put it into practice. But it's really nice. They clearly spared no expense on that strap. There's also an overhead strap that kind of like holds it from another angle, so it's not all coming sort of off the back of your head and around your head, but also kind of from the top. There are different reports about whether that will be optional or included. Mark Gurman at Bloomberg reported that overhead strap was going to be optional. All I can tell you is that at least for the demo that I got, it was not optional. Every member of the press who got this had the over-the-top head strap on it. So clearly Apple thought that it was a good idea to have that extra strap for more support, so that this 1 pound of stuff is not is more spread out in the force that it's exerting on your head in order to keep it up and running. Behind the hardware, there is a thing called the light seal, and this is a fabric padded piece. It's the thing that sits between the device and your face. It blocks the light out, and it's properly forming that seal with your face, ideally comfortably, and also blocking out the light from the rest of the world to complete the illusion. Now, when we saw it, there were a few sizes of it. Apple says there will be many, many, many more sizes of it by the time that it launches, and they anticipate that the way that this is going to work is that you're going to come into an Apple store to try it out, see if you want to buy this thing. They will do a measurement of your face then, and you will be they will select a light seal that works for your face, and that's very important because you want to spread out the force as much as possible in order for it to be comfortable. But it's also very clearly a work in progress, and they only had a few at the developer conference, and they went out of their way to say that there would be more on the way, and that wasn't a complete story yet. It's a little bit like the overhead strap. I think the accessory story here is not fully baked yet. They've got 6 months ish to get that right. If you need a lens adjustment, I've got my glasses on here. They're going to make available snap in. They're actually magnetic, so you'll put them on the lenses that are already in there, and there's like a little magnetic thing that snaps on that these things snap on and adjust. So you don't have to wear glasses in there. I actually have a pair of these for my I have an Oculus Quest 2. They are a medical device, so legally, they talked about Zeiss is going to make them. You will not order those from Apple. You have to order those from you have to have your prescription, and you have to order them from a company that basically vends eyeglasses. And that's actually what Meta has to do with the Quest. I had to go to an online lens boutique that had as one of its glasses options Meta Quest 2 eyepieces, and then I ordered those, and those were sent separately. And Apple estimates about half the people who buy this thing will need adjustment. But they're magnetic. You can take them out. So if you there is a guest mode. So if you wanted to share this with somebody who was visiting, you could pull them out, and then they could view it uncorrected. And I didn't get a chance to see that, but the impression I get is it's a fairly simple, like with the Quest, it's a fairly simple thing where you just pull them off if you need to. There's also a battery pack. One of the decisions Apple made to get it down to a pound was to take the battery off of it. So all the processing and the sensors are on it, but there's a little battery pack that's sort of like a big iPhone battery pack recharger kind of thing that you might carry with you. That's attached via a cable to the side of the Vision Pro. They say it'll last about 2 hours. It's got a USB-C port in it, so if you wanted to sit somewhere and use it for longer, you would plug USB-C into the battery, and then the battery would go. I imagine it would also probably, like, depending on how much power it was draining, charge the battery while you're sitting there if it needs charging and you're using the thing. But it means that if you were going to get up and move around with this thing, you would need to put that battery probably in a pocket, or I'm sure somebody industrious will do like a belt clip or something like that as well. But it's a separate piece, which is, I'd say, less elegant, but shows you that Apple really doesn't want that extra weight on your head. And I get that they want it to be as light as possible. Running this whole thing is Vision OS, which is a brand new platform. So we've got to add that to the mix: iOS, iPadOS, macOS, watchOS, tvOS. The list goes on. Vision OS is now a part of it. And turning this thing on, because it is a computer, I thought was really interesting. The setup, you turn it on, it measures your inter-eye distance. So there's like a little automatic thing that looks at your eyes and measures the distance and adjusts, and that's a motor. They actually do that just in the device, the space between your eyes and your pupils. Then it's a little bit like setting up Face ID kind of in reverse. Instead of you moving your head around in front of a sensor, it has you hold your head still, and you use your eyes and you look at a dot and watch it as it goes around in a circle a couple of times. And what it's doing there is it is learning about your eyes and how you track images, and it uses that as the basis of the eye tracking technology that's built into this thing. And then you hold up your hands, and it scans your hands, and it recognizes your hands because it's going to use your hands for hand tracking. So it does those things. And when that is done, it drops you into reality. And I think this is really interesting, because if you look at something like what Meta does, when you turn that thing on, you're dropped into a fantastical setting that you get to choose. You're in a jungle, you're on a spaceship, and then there's like a floating app window in front of you. Apple doesn't do that. When you start the Vision Pro, you start with a view of where you are, and there's nothing else there. You are in the place that you're in. And that is another reinforcement of their point that, like, primarily the idea here is you're enhancing the world around you, not shutting yourself off from the world around you. And that is just, the message they want to send here. There's a digital crown right above your right eye. If you press it, it brings up a little floating app menu. I'd imagine you'll be able to do like a a voice command as well, but they didn't show that to us. And then we get to the interface, and this is fascinating. It's very clear that for years now, Apple has had some of their best software engineers working on this, best interface designers. This does not feel like a product that they've worked on for the last year. It really does feel like this is a product that they've spent 5 or 6 years building, 5, 6, 7, maybe even for some people, years building. And the part that really blew me away, that I think it's just so unique, is that all these other Apple devices we use, there's a pointer. There's a cursor on the Mac that you move around, the little arrow. We use our finger for the iPad and the iPhone. No pointer on Vision Pro. Well, there is. The pointer is your gaze. The pointer is literally where you're looking, which is remarkable. And it's very accurate. I was very impressed. They said it's a mixture of, they're doing the eye tracking, but also it requires some machine learning stuff that they've got to make some guesses about exactly where your attention is at any given time. Human vision is weird. Our eyes move in weird ways. But I can tell you, objects that the targets seemed really small to me. And yet I would look at them and do a gesture and it knew where I was looking. It was pretty impressive. I could not have been more impressed, honestly. There's essentially a close box on a window. It's a little circle down at the bottom, and I would just look at it and tap, and it would close. And there was like, I didn't even have to think about it. Wherever you look, that's the thing you're acting on. To click or tap, you take your thumb and forefinger and bring them together. So if I look at that close box and do this, it closes the window, and you don't have to do it like up so that like, hey, I'm right in front of the screen. I put it in my lap, and because it's looking all around, I put my hand just resting it in my lap, and I very casually bring those two fingers together, and it knows that it's a click. It knows it. And the other gestures, I think, are also, we've all been trained with iPhones and iPads. All the other gestures are pretty natural, or even a Mac with a trackpad. So like to scroll, you look at the Safari page, let's say, and you bring your fingers together, and then you just move them up and down, and you're scrolling. To swipe, you bring your fingers together and you move left or right, swipe, and it knows what you're doing and it swipes. It's pretty intuitive. I picked it up very quickly. Feels very natural. There's a zoom gesture, which is like you bring two hands together and then you can zoom things in and out. One of my favorite things. So apps appear in Windows, but you can pick them up and move them around and resize them, and they can be anywhere. They can be all around you. They can be in different rooms. If you want to be in like different rooms, you can put. My friend James Thompson, the app developer, sent me a picture of in the simulator that they released last week, where he's in the simulated living room and the settings app is in the kitchen. And his comment was, "Oh no, I left the settings in the kitchen." But you could actually do that with it. But I have to say, there is something visceral about picking up a window and moving it around with your hand, and the illusion is so powerful. So there's a little horizontal bar at the bottom of each window, kind of like the indicator light at the bottom of an iPhone that you use to sort of swipe up to get back to the home screen or unlock the phone. And if you look at it and grab it by putting your thumb and forefinger together, you are now holding that window. And you can literally sort of like look to your right and take your hand and move it where you want and position it anywhere you want in space, closer to you, further away from you. And when you get it right where you want it, you just let go and it stays there. And it's this incredibly natural feeling interface. It's it's a little like magic, because it's not like when you're touching an iPhone where you feel like you're touching right on the software. It is at a distance, but there's something about it that it feels like you're acting on that thing at a distance, but like you've got magic powers that you don't need to go over there. You can just sort of control it from right here, but it feels very tactile. I keep thinking about that feeling, the idea of just grabbing a window and moving it somewhere else. Works really well. The way the interface works, there's what's called the shared space, which is the primary way you work on this. So you see the world around you. You can have different apps open. You could have a Mac with a screen sharing window, so you're controlling that Mac. You could have different apps. You can have iPad apps. You can have Vision OS apps running, and they all are running together in the shared space. Also, though, and apps don't just have to have like a window right in front of you. They can be an object, that can be on the top of a table or laying on the floor. They don't have to necessarily be just upright hovering in front of you. But there is something that's essentially like the equivalent of full screen mode, where an app can sort of like take over and sort of push everything else out of the way, and then put a bunch of different windows up in your face. And then there is an immersive mode, which is where instead of showing the world around you, the app controls what you see, and that's where games will happen primarily. But other experiences could happen that way too. Although it's interesting how Apple has approached the idea of immersion. Like I said, they want to start with you in the real world. So that digital crown above your right eye, the idea is that by default you see everything, but you can dial that thing. You actually move it clockwise, and as you do, an immersive element sort of grows from the front of your vision around you, and you can sort of dial it to halfway, dial it to all the way around you, and then bring it back. So you can sort of choose. And I really like this approach. A lot of VR headsets, like I said before about like the Meta Quest, they default to just completely taking over reality, in part because their cameras aren't very good, so they can't really represent reality very well, and the Vision Pro can. But like I was thinking about, I play a ping pong game called 11 Table Tennis on my Quest 2. It's actually really good. But when I play it, I'm always in a virtual environment because that's just how it's built. You're on a mountaintop, or you're in an arena or something like that. And wouldn't it be better if the game let you play in whatever room you're in? And then if you wanted to shut out the world, you could choose to do it. That's the idea with Vision Pro. Apple's trying to do it that way. So I did get to use this. I got to use it for about half an hour. It was really interesting. What I came away with is the impression that this is an amazing piece of hardware, right? Like the hardware, this is Apple using every skill it's got. It designs processors, it knows how to design really compact bits of technology like you'd have on a phone. The software is very impressive. It's not done yet. They've got 6 months to go, but what they showed us was really good. It did not feel kind of anything that was shaky. If they have stuff that's shaky, they didn't show it to us, right? Like they're like, the stuff they got that we saw was rock solid. The interface, I was very impressed. I think they was very thoughtful about how you build a computer interface in a 3D spatial environment. It's clear that they spent years on this. Like I said, somewhere around 5 or 7 years building this thing in secret. They are playing a very long game here, is the impression I got from them. They are not going to put this out there, and if it doesn't sell well in year one, walk away from it. This is a multi-year process of them designing and iterating on this and figuring out where this is going to go. It's going to take years. They seem extremely committed. However, I can be as impressed with that hardware as possible, and it doesn't change the fact that it doesn't answer the question, does this fit in people's lives? Who would buy this? How would they use it? Are they going to buy it now at $3,500? Are they going to buy it in 2 years at $3,000? Are they going to buy it in 5 years at $1,000? All of that, do people want a product in this category? Do people want something that, even as much as Apple has tried to show it doesn't block you off from the world, it does block you off from the world. It's not a collect. You might be able to see the world around you, but the truth still is that all of those demos that they showed are a person alone sitting on a couch. It's not or taking pictures of people who are doing things. But like the 3D movie experience was amazing. I have watched 3D movies on my Quest 2, and it's good, but the screen isn't very good. The screen on this is great. They showed clips from Avatar 2. They looked spectacular. There are some immersive videos that they did of like a basketball game and a baseball game and like a rock climber that were amazing. Like that's all great, but I usually watch movies and TV shows with my wife. And this is not the kind of experience that's for two people. It's for one person. It's a solo thing. So I think there are interesting applications for it. But what I can say is I couldn't be more impressed with the product as a piece of hardware and software. I just have some questions about who wants it, when will they want it, how much will they be willing to pay. And all I know is that Apple seems pretty invested in spending a lot of years and a lot of time figuring that out, because ultimately, maybe preempting a question that you all might have, ultimately, I think Apple's goal all along has been that they're seeing out into the future to a world where you wear a pair of glasses and Apple's technology is going to be able to overlay computing onto what you're seeing with your glasses. But they can't make that product, and they're not going to be able to make that product anytime soon. And what we know, and this goes back to Steve Jobs saying real artists ship, is or the classic line is no battle plan survives contact with the enemy. They have to ship something now. They have to start learning, because they're making assumptions, but it's all from people inside Apple. So the big next step is they ship it. And developers now are looking at the developer kit and the developer simulator for Vision OS, and they're going to have a lot of questions. And some of those things are going to be unexpected. And then they're going to ship this product to real people, and they're going to be early adopters, but they're going to do things with it that Apple hasn't anticipated. And Apple's investment in building this hardware is going to drive manufacturers to build new technology to take it further on top of that. And that's sort of how you have to go, is they had to ship it. Now they're committed to it, and they're going to learn and grow. And I think ultimately their goal still is to get to a place where if there's a device that replaces the iPhone or supplements the iPhone, they want it to be from Apple. And they've got the skill in hardware and software and design, and they've also got lots of money that they can use to spend on this. And so they're placing a bet that, like, if that is going to be a thing, Apple is going to be the best company in the world at that thing. But I still think it's fair to ask the question, is it going to be a thing? And I don't know the answer to that. So it's a pretty amazing thing for what it is. And I think that, a lot of times the narratives here get conflated, where all the questions about this thing are, will anyone buy it? And I think those are separate questions, and I think they're both valid, but I think they're separate questions. One is, how is this thing as a product? And I can tell you, I think as a piece of technology, it's pretty amazing. Even 6 months away from shipping, I'm kind of blown away by how good it is and how thoughtful it is. Separately, there is the other conversation, which is this a thing people want? Will they ever want it? Worth having that conversation. I don't think there's a clear answer. I think Apple's taking a risk here. But I think Apple's in a position where they think, if this is going to succeed, we want to be the ones who succeed at it. And that's why they're spending all this money on it. And I think that if anyone's going to succeed at this, it's going to be Apple. But the open question is, will devices that go on your face like this ever be a thing or not? And that story will be written over the next 10 years, probably. That is my entire Vision Pro portion of my presentation. I can talk about other stuff, but I imagine people want to know things about the Vision Pro. So why don't we do questions here? If you've got questions or comments, I would love to hear them and take them.
Who's up first? Al?
Yeah.
You chuckle.
Yeah. So Apple will have some scanning means to ascertain curvature of your unique face.
Yes.
I assume they'll be done with a phone.
Yeah, it's very much like a Face ID scan. In fact, that's basically what I was given when I walked in before the session. Is they scan my face, they scan my ears, like the spatial audio scan that they can do now. My understanding, and again, this might change, my understanding is the intent is that they'll do that in the store. If you do want to buy, and they anticipate that most people who are going to buy a $3,500 piece of technology will want to see it and try it out and then decide if they want it or not. They did say, if you do want to order it on the online Apple Store, it will be the same kind of thing, where the Apple Store app will probably have a face scanner in it, and you will go through that, and they will use that data to then decide which light seal is the right size and shape for you.
Yeah, I'm really curious about with all the these gestures and stuff, that they have it so refined that in the normal course of being an animated human being, you won't accidentally, that gesture vernacular, that it'll misinterpret it. But you say it's fairly matured, that aspect of it.
It was remarkably accurate. There were a couple moments where I was very subtly, my hands were all the way down on my sides, and I very subtly brought two fingers together where it didn't see it, and I needed to be a little more forceful. I didn't have any false positives, but this is one of those things where Apple, as these stories have been out there about like generative AI and like Midjourney and Chat GPT, and people saying Apple doesn't know anything about AI, they're really falling behind here. The fact is, almost every major feature that Apple rolls out these days is based on machine learning, at least in part. They just, they just don't phrase it in the same way. They view it as just a tool. And this is one of those areas where it's very clear that from your gaze detection to your gestural detection, they are running like a machine learning model so that they can be really accurate about your intention, and that certain gestures are intentional and certain gestures aren't. And at least in the controlled environment that I was in for 30 minutes, I didn't feel like at any point I was being misinterpreted, which is why I actually walked away so impressed. Is it did not feel like, like I hold my hands out and then do something like that in order to get it recognized. I was just literally leaving my hand down on my side and doing a very small little touch, and it got it, and it was not making mistakes. So I'm encouraged by that.
I've been reading about I guess they're developing the next iteration, maybe I would assume a consumer version of this kind of concurrently, the teams. Presumably with some kind of overlap, or are they focus on, two different products, but using core technologies, in a unique kind of a form factor. Any thought about the timeline for that? Presumably a couple of years out.
Yeah. Mark Gurman at Bloomberg has pretty good sources about this stuff. And he says that Apple is simultaneously working on a next generation Vision Pro and a, whether it's Vision or Vision 1 or something like that, a lower end model. It's unclear. Like Mark had a list a couple weeks ago in his newsletter of like what they wanted to keep and what they don't. I think that the truth is that they're also going to learn a lot in the next year about what I would put money that there are sensors in this thing that they're going to realize they don't need, that they thought they were going to use those. They thought that was going to be necessary, and it turns out that it's not. But they don't know yet what those things are. Maybe they've learned some of them already, but there will be more. Because this hardware, I get the impression this hardware has actually been done for a while now, and it's really about the software. I've heard through the grapevine that even 3 or 6 months ago, they felt like the hardware is pretty much done. So they're moving on to next gen, but it's going to be, if we're talking about this thing coming out in 24, I would think that a next gen version or a cheaper version, which still won't be cheap, but it might be cheaper. Yeah. I think you're talking about late 25 or probably 26 at that point. Because keep in mind, this thing is not even going to ship for 6 months. Yeah. But they are working on 2 versions. I given that it costs $3,500. Part of that is that these are very expensive pieces. Part of it is they actually can only sell. There was a story about how Sony can only make like 800,000 of these displays, and they use 2 in each one per year. So that's 400,000 a year is the max they can sell, which is a very small number for a company like Apple of anything. So I think when all those rumors were out there about it being $3,000, I think Apple looked at how many they could sell and said, we should raise the price even higher. So if the supply chain picks up and in a couple of years they're able to make way more than that, that might be enough for them to lower the price or to release a product that's kind of like the one that we are going to have next year, but cheaper, while they are moving on with a high-end one to another constrained cutting-edge version that costs a lot of money. But that's just speculation.
Georgiana
has a hand up.
Yeah. So I'm thinking about all of this. Probably multiple neural networks in my brain are thinking about all of this. I have a work experience with sensors and heads-up displays in aircraft, uh, submersibles, things like that. So I do see a direct tie-in with that type of technology and this. And I'm thinking ahead that this would be a better simulation teacher. In other words, you create the accident scene. You have all the video data, you have temperature data, you have wind speed, whatever it is, and whatever kind of accident it is, and you gather all that information, you plug that in, and then you have the first responder or the military person or the astronaut, playing in that environment and trying to learn from it. So is that something that they even talked about?
They didn't. They were very limited with what they chose to talk about. I think there's a whole bunch of things that this thing is going to be capable of doing that Apple just didn't want to talk about because they wanted to. It's part of their message of like they wanted to set the scene. So that's what they didn't talk about games even, right? Really, even though I'm sure this thing will play games because they didn't want it to be about that. That's makes them sort of competing with Meta, and they're like very much want to send the message like, no, we're way above them. Which I mean, it's Apple. That's what they're going to do. It's marketing. I would say the one issue with simulation, at least in this hardware and software as we've seen it, is the immersive view is what essentially it's what Meta calls room scale. The idea is that you're in a chair and the immersive environment is around you. What this device doesn't seem to be capable of doing, or that Apple has built it to do right now, is have you be in a virtual environment that you can move around in. So for simulation, what the way they would probably do it is you'd still want a space that was a real space and then place simulated things in it. Mm-hmm. But for that, they absolutely, I mean, Microsoft has done some of this with HoloLens, which is their augmented reality product. It's absolutely a thing that people will do, whether it's on the level of very small, like teaching people about surgery, right? Just being able to see something in 3 dimensions and where you move your head and you're coming closer or further away, and like where it's not real, but to your senses, it's as real as, as it gets. There's huge potential for stuff like that. I definitely think that Microsoft already found this and they're pulling back from HoloLens, but I think Apple will find this too, that there are definitely fields where simulating business fields where simulating reality, whether it's taking 3D models and putting them in actual context where you don't have to imagine what the 3D model would look like. It's a real 3D object in space that you can see and move around, or whether it's a simulated body that's being operated on, or a simulated accident scene or something like that. There are definitely interesting applications there, but I just want to underscore that as far as we know, based on the early views into Vision OS, it seems like the completely simulated environment that you can move around in is not what they're trying to do. So it would be you'd basically need a room or a space to put your simulated objects inside, because that's how it seems to work.
So we don't have to fear the Ray Bradbury story, the Velt, in his Martian Pride, if you remember that.
Oh man, I read that a long time ago.
You don't have to fear that.
Well, the way to think of it is, if you were in a completely virtual world and walking around an accident scene, it's not going to let you do that. But if you're in a conference room and the accident scene is on the table, you could walk around that, and that would be perfectly fine. And in fact, that's one of the advantages of Apple's AR system here, is that you can actually walk around and move around, because you're not going to hit something that you can't see, because you can see all the objects in the space. And that's an advantage that they have.
Mary?
Yeah, my question is about, not about this, but Al mentioned we're doing some stuff on health apps in the upcoming year. Can you talk about that a little bit? What's coming in that area?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing in health is that Apple's always been really careful about the privacy of your health data. And I think to a fault, because health, was basically an iPhone and Apple Watch only proposition. The Apple Watch talks to the iPhone, relays some data back to the iPhone, and then the iPhone is the repository for your health data. And I think the biggest announcement was that iPad OS 17 will have the health app on it, and that they are instituting a syncing system across your devices. And it's interesting how they're doing this. They recognize that iPads are not always as personal as iPhones. So your health data doesn't sync to an iPad by default. You actually tell it, I would like to sync health data. And the phone, on the phone, I believe you have to say, yes, sync my data with this iPad. It's all encrypted. Apple can't see it. It's using iCloud and all of that. But they want that extra layer of like, is this an iPad I want to share my health data with, even if I'm logged into it, because it might be my kid playing on it or something, and I don't want them monkeying around with my health data. That also opens up HealthKit, which was all health devices that are connecting with health would have to be paired, a lot of them Bluetooth, be paired with an iPhone, because there was no health or HealthKit on the iPad. So that will also be possible now. Like I don't sleep with my iPhone next to my bed. I have an iPad next to my bed, and I have a Bluetooth blood pressure monitor. And every time I wanted to do my blood pressure, I have to go get my iPhone and bring it, because like my iPad just couldn't do that. And all that stuff gets swept away with iPad OS 17. I think those are the biggest things going on in health. There are some, I think the other big thing that they're doing that I would mention is bicycle stuff. There's a lot of new bike stuff in terms of Bluetooth cadence sensors and the ability to mirror, even if you're on a ride with where the watch is monitoring you, the iPhone can actually kind of mirror all of your data, so that if you've got a bike that's got a phone clip on it, you can see all the data that's being collected by your Apple Watch, but you can see it on the phone screen, which is more visible if you're riding a bike. And there's like power zones that they're doing, which are kind of like heart rate zones that actually are measuring your biking power as you're doing it. They put a lot of bike effort in, and there are some other things too, but those are the ones off the top of my head. Those are the ones that struck me as the biggest changes in health. They continue. As an iPad, I mean, I use my iPad more than my iPhone. I'm really happy that health is going to be on the iPad, and that I can see the charts and stuff on a big screen.
Well, will they be doing anything like with blood sugar? Are they working on that anybody's knows?
Yeah,
about?
lots of rumors that they're working on it. It's very hard to get it into the watch form factor. I know that there are third-party devices that are doing blood sugar monitoring that you can connect with HealthKit again. But that's turned out to be, I think they've even bought companies that have tried that, but it's a very hard problem to solve. And also to solve in a way that the FDA and other regulators around the world consider meaningful. It's a little like how when they announced the cycle tracking stuff that's in the Apple Watch last year, they had this sort of circuitous way of describing what aspects of cycle tracking they were doing for menstrual cycles. And they when they did the blood oxygen, they had a very sort of like, well, we use it to detect along with your heart rate to detect recovery time. But what they didn't say is you can use this instead of a little clip-on blood oxygen monitor. And the reason is medical claims have to be evaluated by the FDA. They have a very high standard. It is an ongoing challenge for Apple to meet them. So the blood sugar one is like way up there. Like it would be amazing if anybody who is a diabetic could put an Apple Watch on and know their blood sugar at all times and log it and have alerts and all of that. But it sounds like that's actually really difficult. It's a difficult problem to solve in the limited contact space that you've got on your wrist to the skin on the Apple Watch. So nothing imminent there, I think.
Okay, thank you.
What do you think about their initiatives in the mental health scheme of things?
I mean, I like it. I like the idea of it. I think that Apple is trying to make a statement that mental health is part of healthcare, and that if Apple cares about your health, they care about all of it. There's also this idea that if you're, and I think there are studies to back this up, that if you are logging your status and your mood, if you're logging, the act of logging it creates a level of introspection that can actually be itself healthy, and that you can also look and track and see if you have if you have periods where you are feeling worse or feeling better. I think it's really interesting. It's all in how you use it. I mean, I think Apple very much doesn't want to be seen. You see this with the Vision Pro too, as they don't want to be seen as the company that is ruining people's mental health by having phones in front of their faces all the time, right? That's why they did screen time a few years ago. Like, they don't want to be seen as that. And I think that this is, and just, I mean, the truth is, mental health, it still has a stigma that needs to be overcome. And so Apple saying we consider mental health part of the health app, and it's part of the equation like everything else. They're making a statement in doing that. I haven't used any of it, so I don't really know, but I'm encouraged by the fact that they're doing it. It will be interesting to see if they continue down this path, or if this is sort of a thing where they say they care about it and release a few features on it, and then they kind of walk away and don't update it. And we'll just have to watch them over the next few years.
Any other questions?
I'm sorry.
Oh, for Jason.
Yeah, so they're going to finally improve their autocorrect, hopefully in iOS 17.
Yeah. So I didn't do my OS spiel, but I'll tell you, the idea that they're doing, again, talking about ChatGPT and how they're all like, oh, Apple doesn't have a chatbot, so they're behind. One of the big features is they're using a transformer model, and that's the T in ChatGPT. I've only used it a little bit, but it's so much better. The autocorrect in iOS 17, and it'll also be in macOS and iPadOS. It's so much better. It's new technology. The old autocorrect was based on a machine learning model that was like, a couple of generations ago. And the transformer model is cutting edge, and it's very good. So good that not only is it autocorrecting, but it's going to suggest words as you type them, and even suggest sentences as you type them, and you can just press the space bar and it'll complete your sentence for you, because it's got this transformer model, which is the same thing that leads to ChatGPT. But again, Apple's not using it to build a chatbot. They're using it to make intelligent inferences about the word that you meant. And the other big part of this is, if they get it wrong, my thing that makes me most angry of anything when I'm typing something on my iPhone is I type it right and it changes it to something wrong, because then you got to back it up and you got to do it again, and it still might try to change it into something wrong. And part of this change to autocorrect, one of the things they're adding is, if they autocorrect something, it gets an underline, and if you tap on it, it will give you other options, including what you typed, which is great. So that is another win for them. So I'm very encouraged by that. I think they're also using that to apply to dictation, where it's running everything through its speech to text system, and then it's applying the model to it so that the text comes out actually looking like something somebody would type, rather than it being kind of like a chain of words, which is sort of what the dictation looks like now. So that is gonna, it's one of those things that it's almost invisible, but the good thing about that, I wrote a piece about this on Macworld last week, which is so many of Apple's new features, like if you don't know that they're there, you don't go look for them. And so they roll out these new features, and unless somebody specifically tells you you should do this, like the lock screen customization or things like that, people don't know. Well, the beauty of this transformer model changing autocorrect is nobody has to do anything. They just type on their iPhone. And I think they're going to upgrade their iPhones to iOS 17, and they're going to be amazed. They're going to just be like, oh, autocorrect works now. And it will also learn how you write, and it will make suggestions based on what it learns from you over time, which means that it should actually get more accurate as it goes as well, and resemble, it's going to start intuiting what sentences you write a lot, and letting you not have to type them all out. So I'm very excited about autocorrect in iOS 17. It's going to be, at least in the betas, it's already just so much better than what is currently there in 16.
You see that it learns it learns your writing style or whatever, as you move on to other devices, and you update to newer phones, newer iPads, whatever. Does it take that information with you? Is that like backed up to be carried forward?
I don't think it is. And the reason I say that, I don't know for sure. I didn't ask them, but in general, Apple's machine learning models run on device, and they don't try to sync them up because there's actually a hard technical problem there, because you've got different models running separately on different devices, learning different things, and how you get them to sort of like work together and justify it together. I don't believe it's just like how in photos, every photo in your photo library is scanned by a machine learning model that says there's a picture of a dog and this is at night and this is a mountain, and it runs that model on your Mac and on your iPhone and on your iPad, and they're completely separate. They don't share that information. So I think this is like that, where they pretty much are all on their own, and that's partially because of Apple's sort of privacy commitment, and also just because of the difficulty of having machine learning model and trying to override it. Like if one model overrides another, does that mess up the other model? I think that they try to keep them all separate. So yeah, if you write differently on your iPad than your iPhone, it would actually know the difference, I think.
It's great. Any other questions out there that we have like a minute or two left here before
I'll throw out a Mac feature that I'm really looking forward to, which is widgets out of Notification Center. Right now, widgets, which I love on iOS and iPadOS, are not even anywhere but Notification Center on the Mac, and they are putting them out on the desktop. So you will be able to put widgets out on the desktop, and that's the way they work, is they're on the desktop. Which, if you remember back to Dashboard, widgets had never been on the desktop, like allowed by Apple. Dashboard was like a separate layer. Notification Center is where modern widgets live. This, you're going to be able to drag them out of the Notification Center, put them on the desktop, or just add them right from the Finder. They live on your desktop, and then when you're using another app, they go into like they don't go inactive. They just go into kind of like a fade away mode, where they're desaturated, and they're kind of like less annoying in the background. They kind of fade away. And then when you click on the desktop or do the gesture or the keyboard shortcut to show the desktop, then they pop back into full activity and full color and all of that. And then as an adjunct to that, and I think they'll be more stable and update more often too, because they're taking it out of the process that runs Notification Center, and now they're going to be running on their own all the time on your desktop. But the weird thing that they're also doing is a projection of widgets from the iPhone. And they demoed this in the keynote, but like to see it happen on your Mac is pretty amazing, where there's an iOS app, it's got a widget. The example they used was a widget from an electric car. It's got your like information and control of the AC and all of that thing in an electric car. I think they were using Lucid, but it could be Tesla, it could be something else too. And it's an iPhone app. You literally, when you're adding widgets to your Mac, if you've got your iPhone on, it doesn't even need to be near your Mac. It can just be on the same Wi-Fi network as your Mac. You will see the widgets that are running on the iPhone, and you can add those too. And the iPhone just updates them on your Mac from wherever it is in your house. That's really pretty cool, because then the iOS developers don't have to build a Mac version of their app or whatever. And if you're relying on a widget from a developer who's never going to build a Mac app, doesn't matter. You can get that widget out on your desktop. I think getting those widgets, which are going to be interactive for the first time this fall in iOS 17 and in macOS, you can click on them and it'll do stuff, which is a big win. But then they're also going to be able to, you'll park them out on your desktop. And I love that idea. I'm really looking forward to it. I think it's going to be a big improvement on the Mac.
Jason, thank you so much for showing up with us. We were looking through our archives, and this is the 7th time you visited us.
That's awesome. I used to do it in person, but I know we're on Zoom now.
Yeah. Hopefully we'll get to do this more often. You have great insight into tech punditry and Apple and pop culture universe. And really enjoy your Mac Break Weekly stuff and the Incomparable. Awesome. And I would recommend everyone go to his site, 6 Colors, and check it out. Anything else you want to promote or anything?
Yeah, sixcolors.com has everything. And if there's a tech podcast that I would love people to try out, it's Upgrade, which I do on relay.fm. I do that every Monday with Mike Hurley. And that is that's the best. But I'm on MacBreak Weekly on Tuesdays, and then Six Colors is where I write things out. If you prefer written word instead of podcasts or videos, I still do the written word. It's a part of me. I can never let it go. So sixcolors.com. Thanks,
Great.
everybody.
Thank
I
you.
appreciate it. Thanks for staying up with me.
Thank you.
Well, thank you so much.
Thanks for doing it.
Yep. Bye.
Bye. Ciao, ciao. Now it's the infamous raffle time.
Right.
We have 4. Help me out with this. I want to make sure I don't lie.
Did you get a
Lisa's got
volunteer?
you covered.
Okay, Thomas.
Oh, you are? Okay. I was
Yeah.
hoping.
Gotcha. We've got 4 $25 Amazon gift cards and 2 $100 Amazon gift cards for the attendees. And then Mary will guide us through the all member raffle, which is 1 $100 Amazon gift card. Now, neither she nor I can generate these numbers since we're the ones telling you who the winners are going to be. And Thomas, you had asked for some help. Did you get any volunteers?
I didn't get a volunteer. I'll go ahead and ask my Siri.
Okay.
Randy, you're smiling. Would you help me out? Okay, Randy's going to help us out.
Sure.
Okay.
Perfect.
So for the first portion for the attendees, we have 31 participants.
All right. Hey, Siri, give me a random number between 1 and 31.
That would be 2.
Could you hear that?
I
2?
did, and that's
2.
Barbara Badeau.
Hey, Barbara. Hey.
That's Barbara.
Hey, Siri, give me a random number between 1 and 31.
It's 21.
Okay, 21 is Chris Dotson.
Random number between 1 and 31 is 18.
Yay, thank you.
Great. Hey, Siri, give me a random number between 1 and 31.
It's 11.
11, Dawn McBride.
Woohoo.
Ready for another one?
Yep.
Hey, Siri, give me a random number between 1 and 31.
It's 15.
15 is Indulus or Indula. I'm sorry, I butcher your name every time. And now we're moving on to the $100 gift certificates.
Very good. Hey, Siri, give me a random number between 1 and 31.
The answer is 6.
And 6 is Carol Becker.
Hey, Carol.
Hey, Siri, give me a random number between 1 and 31.
It's 11.
Okay, so Dawn won a $25 gift certificate. Dawn, which one do you want to give up?
Don's still with us?
Dawn?
Don, you're muted.
Okay, I am muted. I'll give up to 25.
Okay,
Oh,
thank
choice.
you. We got to go back.
Okay, so do one more for
Yes.
that one. Okay.
for the
Hey,
25.
Siri, give me a random number between 1 and 31.
It's 31.
Whoa.
Okay, and that proves it's inclusive. Tim Mullins,
Hey, Tim.
31. Tim Mullins.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
That takes care of the attendee portion.
So I need the new total numbers
Right.
for total membership.
Yeah.
Bob?
276.
Oh, Mary. Oh. excuse me.
276, right?
Right.
Okay. All right, here we go. Hey Siri, give me a random number between 1 and 276.
The answer is 255.
And that is 255 is Sue Harms.
Hey, Sue.
Who's not here?
Who's not here. No, because it's
Yeah.
the all member, right?
It's all member. Yeah.
Randy,
Yes.
congratulations. You are so good. You set off all my devices. On your first one, I had 3, my phone, my iPad.
Oh, was that
my
you? I
Trifecta.
heard those at the
Yeah,
background.
Thank you.
Well,
All right.
thanks everybody. And
Thanks for showing up. And Thomas, I don't want to step on your toes here, brother. But we should make a mention about this is an odd month where the general meeting is the same week as the first Saturday of the next month. So Karen's going to be doing the first Saturday Apple Essentials this week. So encourage everyone to stop in. Karen's always does a great job at whatever she talks about, and bring your questions and concerns about stuff, as well as if anyone's interested in how the board works, the first after that first Saturday class at 1:15, we have a board meeting. So if you're interested in seeing how things operate here with the club and want to participate, always room for volunteers. Bob is looking for some help with the October elections, I think. Are you not, Bob?
I am going to, yeah. So
Yeah.
doesn't hurt to announce it now.
Yeah. Why not? Anything else to add there?
Simple reason I've done somewhere around 20 of them now, and I think it's time to retire me.
And Al, one last thing, you probably have already done it, but before Thomas ends the meeting, you usually save the chat.
Yeah. Thank you for reminding me, Randy. I would have just shut down and not done what I'm supposed to do here.
You're good.
And Randy, can you hold on to afterwards? Let's chat for a minute.
Can I ask my question again? I wrote it, but it's about photo stream. Did anybody else get a message from Apple saying your photo stream will be shut down on July 26th?
We all
What
did.
is that all about?
Did you use it back in the day? It was that thing where it would store your last, what's the last
30 days, I think.
100 or something like that, photos. I never used it myself.
Yeah. It's my understanding that it precedes what we have now with iCloud Photos,
Yeah.
and the functionality is rolled into the current iteration of iCloud and iCloud Photos. And I don't believe there's anything that needs to be done. But if you're concerned, I believe that they're still there to be had. It's my understanding from what I've read.
It
So
was just a presentation thing. You didn't lose, you're not losing any photos.
yeah.
Okay, so that was my fear.
Yeah, I had the same concern, Roy. I had photo stream back in the day, but I was assured that as long as have my photos in iCloud, like Al said, I would be fine. So if you look at that, if I recall, if you look at the email where you received the notification, there was a link that would provide you further information if you wanted to explore a little bit deeper, a little bit more deeply.
Okay, thanks. Appreciate it.
Hey, Thomas,
Yes, sir.
don't forget to do whatever you have to do to end the recording.
Right, turn it off. Absolutely.
Yeah.
All righty.
All righty.
So, hearing anything else? Any other questions, statements?